In the stillness of the early morning, Diep stood quietly before the modest shelter she called home, her eyes reflecting a gentle sorrow softened by gratitude. Life had not been kind, yet amidst its relentless storms, she found comfort in the presence of a loyal companion and the rare warmth of kindness she had once received from a man whose name echoed gently in her heart, James. With a faint smile, she whispered softly, "Hello everyone. I'm LyTuDiep." Her voice carried both vulnerability and grace, as though each word was a thread tying her to those who had followed her journey, sharing in her quiet strength. "I wish you all peace in life," she continued, her hands clasped before her in a humble gesture of connection. "Thank you for always watching and caring about me. I'm truly grateful." Her gaze lowered for a moment, as though she were speaking to herself more than to the world. "I realize now. I love James," she confessed inwardly, "but perhaps because I feel unworthy of such affection. I've buried those feelings deep inside." A rustle nearby stirred her from thought. Turning toward the sound, she smiled as Hockey, her faithful four-legged friend, came into view. "Hockey, are you hungry yet?" she asked, her tone gentle, like a mother to her child. He wagged his tail in response, and she chuckled softly. "What are you up to, huh?" she teased. "Hold on, I'll cook something for you." The fire crackled to life beneath the worn-out pot she used for every meal. She knelt beside it, carefully stirring, the rising steam mixing with the morning mist. "Just a bit longer," she murmured, glancing at Hockey. "Your food is almost ready." The scent of simple ingredients, perhaps rice, a bit of broth, and some wild herbs, filled the air, but to Diep, it wasn't about what she cooked, but the love with which she prepared it. At last, she gently set the bowl down. "Breakfast is served, Hockey," she said with a soft laugh. "Be careful, it's hot." She watched him eat with quiet joy, then mused aloud, "Maybe this is the best meal you've ever had, huh?" Her heart softened further as she whispered, "Go on, eat." Later, as a few other stray animals gathered around, she welcomed them without hesitation. "Don't be shy," she said kindly. "Come eat, everyone." The simple act of sharing became her sanctuary. It was in those small moments, caring for creatures even more vulnerable than herself, that Diep found a sense of peace she could not put into words. Though her soul was burdened with silent longings and unspoken pain, her heart remained open, offering warmth in a world that had often turned cold. After feeding Hockey and the other strays, Diep stood up slowly, brushing the dust from her skirt, her eyes scanning the quiet forest path beyond the fence. The early light filtered through the trees, and for a moment, everything felt still, almost peaceful. But just as she turned to gather the rest of the morning's chores, a sharp sound pierced the calm, a sudden thud, followed by a muffled cry. Instinctively, she rushed toward the noise, her sandals brushing against the fallen leaves. Beneath the large papaya tree, a young man lay on the ground, grimacing in pain, his hand clutched around his ankle. "Are you all right? What happened to your leg?" she asked gently, crouching beside him, her voice laced with concern. I just fell from the tree," he muttered, embarrassment mixing with discomfort. Without hesitation, Diep examined the injury with care. "Does it hurt badly?" she inquired, already slipping his arm over her shoulder to help him up. "Come, I'll take you home, I don't want to trouble you," he said weakly, but she simply shook her head and replied, "You're not troubling me at all." As they walked slowly back to her cottage, the weight of the stranger leaning against her only reminded her how fragile the human body, and heart, could be. She didn't know his name, nor did she need to. In that moment, all she saw was someone in pain, someone who needed help. "Is your house nearby?" she asked. He hesitated, then shook his head. "Not really." She paused, then said with quiet determination, "If you can't make it, I can carry you. It's not far to my place." With every step, Diep felt the ache in her own body, but her spirit didn't waver. She helped him inside and offered him a small seat by the fire. "Sit down and rest." I'll get you some water, she said softly. He nodded, sweat on his brow, but gratitude in his eyes. Thank you. I feel better already. Do you want me to call a doctor? She asked. He quickly replied, no, no need. I'll be fine, all right then, she said gently, but please, be careful from now on. She turned toward the door, ready to return to her work. I have to go do something now. Just rest here a bit. He stood slowly, placing a hand on his chest. Thank you again. You're a kind soul. As he walked away with a limp, he muttered under his breath, that girl. She's truly good-hearted, and once again. Diep found herself alone, but not empty. Helping others had become her quiet purpose, the one thing that gave meaning to her solitude. And though she asked for nothing in return, the ripples of her kindness were already spreading, touching hearts in ways even she could not yet see. As the morning sun climbed higher, casting golden light across the canopy, Diep walked slowly through the narrow path leading to the back of the small garden she had been tending for weeks. Her hands still bore the warmth from helping the injured man, but now they were eager to return to the work that gave her purpose, harvesting the papayas she had watched grow with patience and care. Each fruit she picked felt like a quiet victory against the harshness of life. A tender reminder that something sweet could still come from soil soaked in sorrow. She ran her fingers across the skin of a ripe papaya and whispered softly, "You're beautiful. You'll help me get through another day." With a worn basket on her arm, she moved from tree to tree, her movements slow but sure, the rhythm of labor soothing her weary heart. The fragrance of the ripe fruit mixed with the scent of earth and memory. Suddenly, a familiar voice broke the silence. "Diep? Is that you?" She turned, surprised, and saw a woman approaching, someone she hadn't seen in years. "Hello, it's been a long time," Diep replied, a flicker of both joy and unease crossing her face. The woman smiled gently. "Yes, 4 or 5 years, maybe more." "How have you been?" "I'm surviving," Diep said after a pause, unsure of how much to reveal, how much truth her voice could carry without breaking. The two women sat down under the shade of a tree, the basket of papayas resting beside them like a symbol of resilience. Time had changed them both, etched fine lines into their faces, but not dulled the warmth in their eyes. "I heard you got married," her friend said softly. "But where's your husband?" Diep looked down, her voice barely a whisper. "He passed away 3 months ago." A silence fell between them, heavy yet compassionate. "I'm sorry," the woman said, placing a hand gently over Diep's. "It's all right," Diep replied. "I'm staying temporarily at a friend's farm. Just trying to make a living." Her friend tilted her head slightly, studying her. "Is it true? Your friend, he's a chairman." "Wealthy, yes," Diep admitted, her voice uncertain. "And kind. But I'm just a divorced woman." There was a pause before she added, almost painfully, "I don't think I deserve someone like him." The woman looked at her, eyes filled with something between admiration and sadness. "You deserve love like anyone else, Diep. Don't let your past define your worth." And with that, the breeze carried away the weight of the moment, leaving only two women, 2 stories, and the quiet rustle of papaya leaves swaying in the sunlight. While Diep lingered beneath the shade of the tree, still wrapped in the tender warmth of an old friendship rekindled, far away on another stretch of land, James was stepping out of his vehicle, greeted by the earthy scent of a vast, sunlit farm. His steps were firm, steady, yet the weight in his chest was one he could not shake, an invisible longing tied to someone who now lived in a world so different from his own. He had come not only as a businessman but as a man carrying silent affection, masked beneath professionalism and measured speech. As he approached the young farmer named Ben, James extended a hand with calm confidence. "It's good to finally meet you in person." The two exchanged pleasantries before mounting a motorbike. Riding through winding dirt paths flanked by thick green fields. "This land," James remarked, has the kind of spirit that can't be measured in currency. Ben, amused, nodded. We're proud of what we've built. This plot is small, just 10 hectares, but it's rich with potential. They walked side by side through the field of Siu Rong, their shoes dusted with dry soil, while Ben pointed to the thick, vibrant roots being unearthed by diligent workers. This harvest is one of our best. The roots are large, full of starch. James examined the produce with discerning eyes, gently brushing away the dirt from one root. It meets my quality standards, he said after a pause, his voice thoughtful. But distant, as if part of him was elsewhere, they sat together under a makeshift canopy while the workers took a break. James listened, asked questions, negotiated prices with clarity and fairness. $23,000. He repeated. I'll agree to 22 if I purchase from your other farms as well, Ben considered, then smiled. That sounds reasonable. We have 4 more farms you may be interested in, James nodded, his mind already calculating logistics, time frames, containers, but somewhere beneath the surface, the only image that kept returning to him was Diep, her hands in the soil, her eyes quietly strong. Within 7 days, he said, I'll send containers. Can you be ready? We'll make it happen, Ben confirmed. As they sealed the verbal agreement with a firm handshake, James looked out across the land. The sun was high now, the laborers resting under patches of shade. Despite the success of the deal, his heart remained tethered to a small garden, a humble woman, and a question that still echoed within, was she truly all right without him? As James rode away from the sun-drenched farm, his heart heavy with quiet yearning, somewhere not far from there, Diep carefully placed the ripest papayas into a straw basket, their golden skins glowing like small suns. The fruit, though simple, carried the weight of her effort and hope that today, they might bring in just enough to get by. To keep going, to survive. With a cloth wrapped around her head to shield her from the heat, she walked down the familiar dirt road toward the market, each step echoing with silent determination. The market was modest, scattered with vendors and locals, but in Diep's eyes, it was a place of possibility, a space where hardship met resilience, fresh papayas. She called softly, her voice barely rising above the ambient noise, more humble than assertive. One elderly woman paused, examining the fruit with curious fingers. These look nice, she murmured. How much? 5,000 for one, Diep replied gently. I'll take this one, said the woman, handing her money with a smile that seemed to recognize something familiar in Diep's eyes, perhaps a shared pain. Perhaps a quiet respect. Another customer approached, choosing 2, then 3. Some paid more than asked, refusing change with a quiet wave of the hand. You keep it. You've worked hard, one man said before disappearing into the crowd. The kindness, though unexpected, stirred something in Diep's chest, a warmth she hadn't known she needed. For the first time in a while, she felt seen, not pitied. Diep? A surprised voice called out from behind. She turned and saw a woman she vaguely recognized, a former neighbor. I heard your ex-husband took you back, the woman said, eyes scanning Diep's worn clothes and tired eyes. But you're here? I divorced him, Diep answered simply. The woman nodded. Then I'm glad. You look freer this way. As the day wore on and her basket grew lighter, another figure emerged from the crowd, this time a man Diep didn't expect to see again. The one she had helped in the forest. I hope I'm not disturbing, he said, holding a small bag in his hands. You again? She smiled politely. You've recovered? Yes, he nodded. And I wanted to thank you. I brought you something. Just a small gift. You didn't have to, I know. But I wanted to. Also. James told me about you. At the sound of James's name, her breath caught slightly. He talks about you often, the man continued, lowering his voice. I don't think you realize how much you mean to him. She looked away, her fingers tightening around the basket's handle. He's a good man, the stranger said, and so are you. Please. Don't push him away because you think you're not enough. Diep didn't answer. The sun had begun to sink, casting long shadows across the street, as if time itself was holding its breath. I should go, she said quietly. Thank you for the gift. As the man turned and disappeared into the fading light, Diep stood still, her heart conflicted between fear and longing, between self-doubt and the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, she was worthy of love after all. And somewhere far beyond the trees, James looked out over the horizon, unaware that Diep's heart had begun to shift. But the question lingered, unanswered. Would she dare to follow it?
Xin chào mọi người đã đến với tập câu chuyện của Diệp và James ngày hôm nay. Thì như các bạn đã biết thì trong tập này thì sẽ xuất hiện một người đàn ông lạ, do Diệp cứu lúc anh đang làm nương, làm rẫy bị thương. Thì khi anh ta đến thăm Diệp thì trùng hợp là James cũng đến. Thì hai người đàn ông chạm mặt thì đã xảy ra sự hiểu nhầm giữa James và Diệp. Thì liệu câu chuyện này nó sẽ diễn biến như nào, và liệu Diệp sẽ chọn ai? Thì mọi người hãy theo dõi kênh của mình để đón xem những tập tiếp theo nhé. Cảm ơn mọi người. Chúc mọi người một ngày làm việc hiệu quả. Và đừng quên ấn like và subscribe kênh của mình. Xin trân trọng cảm ơn mọi người. Hẹn mọi người tiếp sau ạ.